Thanks for joining us at Canners Anonymous for our very first Zoom meeting. We hope you have fun. First, we're going to announce that Trina Hodges is our next and final admin. We just added her this morning.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah.
Yay.
We're so excited. Yeah, so our number one goal is always make sure that the group has enough coverage, and yet all of our admins also get to have a real life, and we take care of the whole thing. So that's awesome. Welcome aboard, Trina. We're really excited to have you. Thanks. I'm super excited because Trina is going to help me with Word docs, and we're going to get things uploaded much faster because my business life sometimes takes me away from doing this stuff. So that's awesome.
No problem.
And then a nod to Kevin, because Kevin he'd hit me with his super soaker. We've got a joke in the group that Kevin will wear a tutu in his garden and use a super soaker to kill the bugs. So if I did not say this, Kevin would get me. We are not experts. We absolutely condone safe practices with common sense approach. We want to make sure that everybody understands that, we do our best to help, but that doesn't mean that we know everything. So if we don't know, we're just going to say we don't know, and we'll find the answer. Next, nod to our Canadian friends and family. Happy Thanksgiving in Canada this weekend. We love you.
Thanksgiving.
Yay!
Happy Thanksgiving. Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
Jen's up there, Christy's up there, Cookie's up there. Yeah, it's awesome. I have family in the group that are up there, so that'll be fun too. And then last but not least, before I hand this over to Trina for just the hand controls, we just want to send our love and prayers and best wishes to those in the wake of the hurricanes. Yeah. So for those of us who are worried,
you're on our hearts, you're on our minds, and you're in our prayers. We are with you right here.
Sending you all of the positive, healing, helpful energy and hugs that we possibly can.
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Miss Trina, we're going to have you show us how to navigate the room, and then we'll get started on our questions.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and get started. So there is a feature in Zoom, and let me find it. We had it yesterday for raising your hand. We're going to, in order to keep this kind of rolling and nice and smooth so that people can hear the person who's speaking, I'm going to mute everybody. And when you have a question, ask it in the chat, and then we'll go ahead and manage that way the background noise, and then you can take yourself off mute, ask the question, and have the floor. There is a feature to and it's if you're on an iPad, you'll probably need to touch to bring your little menu bar across the bottom, and there's a little heart there that says reactions. And if you push the reactions button at the very top of your reactions, you'll see raise hand. So the raise hand is what you're going to do. And I've got the chat. I'll keep the chat on my screen so that I can manage who's got their hands raised. If I miss you, please just unmute when the conversation lulls and let me know, because I've got like 3 different views of the chat. So raise hand, and then when you're done, go ahead and you can put your hand down, and it will let us know that you don't have anything to add at that point. That way,
Trish, you have a fly covering your face.
I have a fly?
No, Trish does. Oh. There.
We talked about
fly balls. Fly balls, yay.
But anyway, that will keep the questions moving along and keep the background noise at a minimal. And does everybody, I love it, and feel free to ask in the chat. I see a few more are joining, so welcome everybody. And any questions about how this is going to work? Where a button is?
All right.
All right, let's go. I'm going to go ahead and hit the mute button. And if you have something to ask, ask in the chat and then raise your hand and we'll get you.
Okay, you're gonna leave me unmuted?
Yes.
Okay.
All righty.
I'm gonna try it. Let's see. If you only see her lips moving, yeah, I hit the wrong button.
I do have a pesky fly here this morning, so we'll see.
All right.
Can you all still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So our first question, and I would just wanted everybody to know, like, these are questions that were asked by the members of the group. Katie went through all of the chats and through the group itself for some of the common questions that we get. She came up with about 20 questions. And so if we get through them all, that would be great. If we don't, we don't, but we'll do our best. So we're looking at water bath versus PC versus oven versus steam. And is there an admin that wants to talk about that real quick? Like why you do what?
Water bath versus PC versus steam.
Yeah, or oven canning, all four of them.
I was going to say, I'm going to do a blurb on water bathing versus steam. Do you want me to try to do that first?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. All right. So you guys have I don't know if you guys have watched the chat like I do. I'm like reading it all the time. Drives my husband crazy. But I posted a thing about steam canning a couple of weeks ago. So for me, I have a bad back. And I'll tell you guys, I've had back surgery, at least one. I got another one coming up. But lifting those heavy water bath pots was, you're going to see my side effects or my visuals here. I don't know if you can see this or not. This is lifting. Okay, let me take my background off. Sorry, guys. Backgrounds. So I need to go off of backgrounds. None. There we go.
There you are.
All right. All right. So this is a big old water bath canner. You can see how big and heavy it is. And it weighs about 20 pounds empty. So, Miss Norma, I'm going to give you the kudos for this because Norma told me about this wonderful invention that I had not a clue. All my years of canning, I had not heard of. And this is a steam canner. And a steam canner is, taking the top off, see this narrow? I gotta find where there we go. See how narrow this is? So your water goes 10 cups in your steam canner. 10 cups. I measured it this morning. Steam canners can anything that is 45 minutes or less, like jams, jellies, salsas, well, anything that's 45 minutes or less. Why? Two reasons. One is because you're going to run this thing dry. And your water bath canning is for a consistent temperature, right? And steam canning is the way. Now, a lot of people will if you're environmentally friendly, this gets up to temperature a lot quicker than that big water bath canner does. It gets really hot really fast. I also, one of the benefits of this is you can put your jars, hang on, let me reach over here. I've got some visuals for you here. You can put your jars in and stack them. See how easy that is? So I've got some jars that go in here and I can put another layer on it. Putting a pat. Yes, I did this with my grapes, with my grape butter. So let me see. There you can see the grape butter. You can just put a dip and put a whole nother layer in it. You can imagine if you're manhandling something like that water bath canner and you have a lot of weight in it, it can be difficult. Now, if you've got a wonderful Amy hanging around, or Scott, and then it's not that big of a deal. But my husband is usually out on the tractor, and I don't have anybody to lift that heavy pot. Because think about your water bath canner holds gallons on top of the weight of what you've got in your jars. Another good thing about these is now when I made all my apple pie fillings, this was the baby I used. And it will hold 7 quarts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 7 quarts in it. So sorry about that, guys. So there's the apple pie filling that very, very, very easy to use. You can double stack in it. It gets up. So if you're using your water bath canner to heat your jars up, then you've got to risk getting a steam burn, trying to fish them out of the water. This way, there's none of that risk. And you can actually put your jars in here and heat it up and keep the lid on it, take it off, and keep your jars as hot as your product is so that you reduce your thermal shock. Water bath, water bath was my go-to for jams and jellies and salsas until I had back surgery. And I was like, I mentioned it in another chat, another website, and Norma, bless her heart, told me about that, and it was a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Nice.
absolutely
Nice.
so Ecolog, if for the environment, you're using a lot less water, your temperatures are going a lot higher in there than they are the water bath. So that sounds all great and wonderful, but pressure cooking and I've been using the old mirror one that slides across with the handle. I started doing green beans whenever I got married back in 1978. And my mother-in-law showed me how to use the green beans. Now, my grandmother, apparently she didn't know what the USDA says you're supposed to do, the ABCs, because we water bath a lot. But the PC is a game changer. There are all kinds of PCs out there. It just depends on what you're comfortable with. I have an AA 921. I know Ange, I know Trish have them. My go-to is my electric Nesco, and I have 2 of them. You'll see my posts about Mad Max and Tina Turner. I named them. And anything that goes in there, like meats, burritos, meals in a jar, beans, everything like that has to be pressure canned. You have to have that higher temperature to kill the bag germs. And let me see if I can get there. We go. Oops, no, wrong one. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. All right. I don't know how to come off of this. There we go. Hello. But you need the higher temperature, the pressurized that the PC does when you're canning things like meats, green beans, lower acid foods, beans. What else, guys? Corn. Oh yeah, you can't.
Potatoes, corn. Yeah.
Potatoes.
All right, we have to move on to our next question.
All right.
All right, it's time. Thank you. Yeah, we're going to move on to Christy. Do you have, I think you were going to answer, what's the best way to determine if a canned item is okay?
Okay, well, I just did these ones last night, and I haven't even tried them yet. So I'm just going to take one of the ones that has a ring. And the first thing that I do after they cool is I take the ring off and I see if I can lift them. Okay. Yeah. If I can lift them by the lid, then they're sealed. Okay. So as far as whether the food inside is good, when I open this, I'm going to open it, I'm going to smell it, I'm going to taste it. And if everything goes well there, I'm going to go ahead and eat it. If there's anything iffy about it, then I would think twice about that.
Mhm.
And the other thing you can do is, here's two of them. Haven't tried this one yet. Okay, got to put them label out just for presentation.
Oh,
You can tap the top. I don't know if you can hear that. Okay.
Uh-uh.
But it always has a little bit of a different sound to me because every different type of lid is made with a different thickness. So this is going to be, as far as I'm concerned, is going to be your least accurate test of them being sealed. This, as far as I'm concerned, is your best. Now, obviously, you're going to take them, you're going to wash them in a warm water bath, dry them off, try to lift them, and then you're going to be good to go. So that's
Great
the answer
job.
to that.
good job.
Okay,
Good
go ahead.
job. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, do you want to go on to your next one to what are reusable
Sure.
lids?
Okay, so this is one of the reusable lids that I use all the time. These jars are my absolute favorite. Now, I've been told that the company has said that these jars are not made for canning, blah, 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 blah. I can in them all the time. I've never had one break. But these lids, they're made commercially for commercial sealing, and the inside of the lid is got a lot of the material inside for sealing. The thing with these kinds of lids is you have to crank it really, really tight. You don't want to just put it finger tight like you would with the other lids. You want to put it really tight because the air inside can express, like the steam will come out, but when it's done, the lid will suck right down. These ones over here are called lug lids, and as far as how to tell when they're sealed, I'm gonna give you some tips, because when I first started working with these guys, I was afraid that nothing was sealed in them, and some of them took at least 24 hours to look like they were sealed. So I'm like, well, how am I going to tell? And so I would open one and it would have a good seal. And I'm like, it doesn't look like it has a seal. So I grabbed these two off my shelf. They kind of look like they have a little bit different indentation. And everybody says, look to see if the button has been pressed down. I don't know if you can tell, but that button doesn't look pressed down to me. It looks like it's just sitting on top of the jar. And yet there's no give in either of these jars. And so I got so that I would take a straight edge of some sort. I'm just using a knife, but I would put it across like this, and I would look to determine whether there was actually an indentation or if it came straight across. So I don't know if you can see that or not, but you'll see it in your own kitchen. And here's a jar with just a lid on, and it actually comes up in the middle and touches my knife. So that's how I tell. And also, same thing with the spoon. Again, same kind of lid and everything, different sound. So that's the least. That's that. Don't count on that one. And I don't know if I've missed anything or not.
On
Reusable
reusable,
lids. Reusable. I don't know anything about Tattlers. You're gonna have to talk about those. Oh, these guys. You're talking about these? Okay. How do you know when a lid is reusable? When it doesn't fail, for starters. I reuse the lid. If there's no rust on the inside of the lid, I reuse the lid. If the sealing material isn't brittle, if you can press your finger into it and it's still soft, I reuse the lid. Now, if you're concerned about wastage, you want to be careful on the cost of the product that you're canning. If you're worried about that, save your lids for maybe in the beginning. I saved my lids for things like jams or carrots, something that's easy to replace, that's inexpensive. My meats, I would put a brand new lid on every time. And then I decided it's not cost effective. So I've just started using them, and I'm not having a lot of failures. And when they do fail, I'm not convinced that it's the lid, but I'll toss it. And yeah, the ones that come, just kind of going back to the lug lids, the ones that come with the jars work really, really well. These guys, you can purchase them. there's a company actually that I went to online, and it's called Macpreneur, and I purchased this, and it's just a sample kit of every size. And if you look, they have every lid with the size inside. Because these lids, you don't know. You think you got the right size when you're measuring it, but you're not sure. So anyway, that's what I did. I got those, and then I ordered the size that I needed the most of, which is for the cute little Alfredo jars.
I love that. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
for
Great
sure.
job, Christy. Yeah,
Thanks.
I'll talk real quick if you want about tattlers. I use these. I don't know. Can you guys see this at all?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Can
Yep.
you see me? Okay. So I use these. These are the three-part systems. So they used to be glass, and you would have the rubber ring, and then you would
Yeah.
have either the bail or the ring that goes in around the outside, right? So Tatler
Oh,
came along and they make them plastic now, and these, including the rubbers, they say should last up to 20 years. So you can reuse these things over and over and over again, according to their website and what they tell us. These could last you 20 years. The difference between using these, say, and like the lug lids, when you or reuse a lug lid, like, or even like the Classicos, like
yeah.
Christy had, like these have the plastisol in the center of them, the Classicos do. And so when you tighten these, you tighten them really good and tight when you put them in the canner. These you do really tight. These you do not. You just put your ring on, and the minute that your ring grabs the jar, can you see this at all? The
Yeah.
minute the ring turns and then it just starts to turn the jar, that's the end of when you tighten your tattlers. Then you put them in your canner, your pressure can or your water bath, whatever you're doing. The minute you pull them out, and if you steam can, do not wait when you're steam canning, do not wait with tattlers the 5 minutes afterwards. You immediately open your canner and you tighten those rings down as tight as you can get them. Pull your jars out and set them aside. I have about a 99% seal ratio or success ratio with these. So I really love my tattlers at this point. I just ordered a whole bunch. I think I showed you guys that in the group. So I love them too. I think that the reusable lids are really the way to go, and they're much more cost effective for sure. Okay. Headspace. Does anybody want to take on Headspace? I think that was Cindy.
Trish, there was a question
There's-
about the lids.
Oh, okay.
How do you
Go ahead.
assemble the rubber part?
Oh, that's a good question. You know what? Amelia will go grab those real quick. It's just like the old bale and glass lids, but I'll show
Gem
you.
jars. Yeah.
Yeah, the gem jars, gem lids. She's coming right now with them. We've got a whole other canning room where we keep supplies. So yeah, I was down to this many tattlers left before my order. So I'm pretty excited my order is coming. So here's your tattler lid, right? That's just the plastic. That's the rubber. They say don't boil these. I don't, because they will stretch, but I do get them hot. So I will put them in like I've got a little mini crock pot that I keep warm, and I will put my rubbers in there and just keep them warm. Don't boil them. And then you put them on just like that, real nice and easy. And then you set that right on the top of your jar. Then you put your ring on, and the minute that the ring catches and the jar moves on the table on the counter, so you push down with your ring, the minute the jar moves, that's when you stop. We've got a video about that too on our YouTube channel, and we'll share that again as well. So did that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay, fabulous. All right, moving on. Cindy's going to talk about Headspace. Is Cindy still here? Okay, does anybody else want to take on? I know, right? I'm like, I wonder if Cindy's muted.
I
Looks
don't
like
see
Cindy.
her.
Yeah, I think Cindy left. She lives
Okay.
really way off grid. So, I mean, way off grid. She lives way out in the middle of Central Oregon, and you never know if she's going to be able to be online or not. So, okay. Does anybody else want to take on the headspace question?
I don't mind. I'll promise to go fast.
Okay, sounds good.
So, anything that I'm putting in my steam canner, jams and jellies, pie filling, not so much, because pie filling will swell a little bit. So you're going to put up like jams and jellies. You can have a half to a quarter inch salsa. When I open kettle, I do my salsa with, and that open kettle is where the hot contents go in a hot jar and a hot lid, and then you flip it for 15 minutes and then you unflip it. And then as it cools, it sucks that vacuum in. Okay. It's okay if you're doing salsa that way or tomatoes. About a quarter of inch is all you need. If you're pressure canning, now the normal is 1 inch, about an inch. So to the bottom of your right here, it is an inch, the last one of these bevels. When I do my Nesto, I go a little bit below that. I have less siphoning that way, but that's what my electric does. Now my AA, I do 1 inch and I'm good. Meals in a jar, beans, that kind of thing. So that's what your normal headspace should be. Anybody else have anything to add? Awesome.
I'm sorry, I was just
let's
answering the question. I do have a little something to add to that. I tend to fill them just a tiny bit less if I'm packing cold because they're going to swell. So I don't always just follow, absolute, this is what I'm going to do, because if my jars are cold and my food is cold and I fill it to the proper headspace, they're going to automatically be more. So that's something that I take into consideration.
Same way with pie fillings, because pie fillings will swell, and beans sometimes will do that if you just stick the beans in a jar. Sorry, Trish.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. I was just gonna say we get that question a lot about oh my gosh, I had all of this siphoning happen. And I think people forget that the whole purpose of the seal and why we bring this up to pressure is that we are pushing all of the air out of this jar, right? And so when that happens, there is a little highway in the canner between this lid and this jar. And until that lid sucks down and seals that highway, I call that the vapor highway. That vapor highway is going to be open. And so until that happens, it's not safe, right? The minute that seals down, it doesn't matter if you have this much headspace or you have this much headspace. Once it's sealed, it's safe, right? Once you've processed it and it's sealed, it's safe. You don't want, and then this is according to even the USDA, any more than 50% headspace is dangerous, and that's when you can't rely on your product. You have to recan it or use it up. If you have less than 50% headspace, then you're good to go. Cindy's back, it looks like, and this was going to be her question. So Cindy, did you have something you wanted to add on this, hon? Did we lose her again?
Lester.
Oh.
Well, she's
No,
also
I finally figured out how to mute it.
Hang on.
Oh, there
Yeah,
she
sorry.
is.
Yeah, we have a windstorm going on, so my signal might be iffy.
Got it.
Yeah, wood spaces. I'll be the first to admit I've been canning. I do not always obey headspace. I am notorious for leaving too little headspace in there. My jars always see. So I'm not too fussy about that. When I'm teaching new canners, I teach them to follow the headspaces religiously because they have a lot of learning to do. Jams and jellies, I tend to open kettle if I don't just wax seal. Yeah, I'm one of those rebels. I use paraffin still. But I also can on a wood stove, so take that in mind also. My headspaces, if I'm talking meat, I want it a ½ inch less because I raw pack almost everything. And when you raw pack meat, it shrinks. So I tend to leave less than a half inch. If I'm talking jams and jellies, if I'm going to wax seal, I fill it all the way up into the shoulder of the shoulders of the jar, so my wax doesn't wind up the shoulders. And an open
Cindy,
cat,
you're breaking up really bad, hun.
it's probably my wind storm. So I
Oh, darn it. Oh, darn it. Okay, well, hopefully she can come back and we'll get a better signal from her there. She will cover Waterbath versus PC on the difference in the times, because Cindy's really the one that taught me about that, on how you convert a Waterbath time to PC and vice versa. And so we'll let her address that. If she doesn't today, we'll get her on camera and get it added to this to the recording here. What is dry canning versus dry pack? Anybody want to handle that real quick?
Well, my understanding is dry pack is where you pack them dry, just like these carrots,
Yep.
and then you can them in a wet canner. And oven canning is the only method of dry canning that I know of. I don't think that it's a good method.
Yeah, I will second that. I don't oven can. I don't approve of that as a safe method. And that's not to say that there aren't many people who do. I just I don't subscribe to that either, Christy. So, and I'm not going to tell you can't, because it's your kitchen, your rules, but I just don't do it either.
I'll agree on that as well, Christy. And the only thing I do use the oven to do is like dry ingredients.
Right.
I'll put them in a jar and put them in there just to kill the bugs, and then put them up.
I think
do any of the
Monica's the
admin-
one that taught me to, because I was doing cheesecake that way, and I got to tell you, it just terrified me, because cheesecake, that's a scary thing. And so I only ever did like a key lime cheesecake that was full of acid, and then I only ever did them in these little tiny jars. But Monica is the one that taught me to water bath them after they were done, and so that's what I've been doing. So thanks to Monica for that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
Good idea.
Yeah, I just love it.
You're welcome.
Katie, did you want to handle, do you need to pre-cook or parboil the veggies?
Well, that'd be great, except I have no clue.
I think that was actually your question, wasn't it?
I asked that question. I didn't want to.
I know.
answer to that.
I knew you were going to say that way. Well, here's what I think. Ange, do you want to say that? Do you want to answer that one or no? Are we going to unmute Ange?
Oh, yeah, hang on. Let me see if I can get that view
For
brought up.
clarification for people who don't know, I am also a brand new canner. What I maybe add to the group is that I can do dry recipes, like powders and freeze-dried foods and those kinds of things. So I am not a canning expert. I'm learning more than you guys are.
Same here.
I love it. I love it. Okay.
So what was the question?
We have no idea.
Yeah. Do you need to parboil or pre-cook fresh vegetables?
Personally, I don't.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just
don't either.
don't. It's an extra step, in my opinion. It's an extra step that we don't need to take, because if you're processing properly, it's for nothing.
Yeah.
So when I'm in that kitchen canning, I don't have time, because if I've got 4 bushels of apples or whatever, I don't, and I don't think it's necessary, because if it's processed, it takes care of it.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. E-canners versus a stovetop canner. Anybody want to take that one?
E-canner all the way.
Yeah.
All right.
Top all the way.
No, you're going to find people that are really pro one and really pro the other. For me, I like them both. Like I said, I started learning on one of those twist Miro way back in the day that had the long handle coming out of it, and it had the little thing that clipped down over the handle on it. I will tell you, I reach for my Nescos because two reasons. One, I can can a small batch at a time. I've got multiple Nescos so that if I need to expand out, and like when I was canning dog food, I had both Max and Tina were both going all day long. But I could have saved myself some time had I got out my All American and put it on the stove, but it's heavy and weight for me is an issue.
Yeah.
I want to also
agree.
say that I don't have an e-canner because they're cost inhibitive. But what I do have is I have an electric turkey roaster. And I take the liner out of my electric turkey roaster and I do my pints in that. And that comes up to heat probably twice or three times as fast as a canner on the stove. The other thing that I will use instead of my canner is a very large, heavy bottomed stainless steel stock pot rather than my canner because it comes up to heat a lot faster and holds it better.
Yeah, Monica's got a water bath, an electric water bath canner. Amy and Katie both have the Nesco pressure canner, water bath canners. So, you know, they'll do both things. I see Monica's got a question there, Trina. Did you get her unmuted? Monica's
No
blank.
question.
Okay, unmute Monica. I can't.
It wasn't.
I don't have the group.
No,
thing.
Monica's blank.
Oh,
Nope, she says no, all good. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So our next thing then, I would like to go over, should I can water? And I've actually asked the group this, the admin group, because I think I stand on an island alone on this topic. So I'm just going to state my opinion first, and then I would love to hear from some of you others. You know, in light of the hurricanes, there's a lot of people saying I need to be canning water. And I say, no, you don't. My opinion is if you're flooding, and I've flooded, I have not flooded inside my home, but my exterior of my home, my garage, it gets covered in silt. And if you've got a cellar and that floods, what good is it going to do for your bottled water to be in your canned goods? Okay, so that's my first thought. My second thought is if I'm going to can water, or if I want to have water on hand for an emergency, I only want to have like a couple of days worth because I would rather know how to distill water. Let's just be facing this. We live on a rock that's, 80% water or 90% water. There's enough water on this planet. We should be able to learn how to distill it and really prepare for that. Yeah, like Kevin
And
said, keep a
purify
level
it.
head. Yeah, just keep a level head, know how to do these things. I just don't feel like I need to waste time in my pantry and space and money and jars and energy and all of those things on something that is a natural resource I can go find and get. Maybe a couple of days worth, but again, I don't think I'd can it. I would probably I would buy water in advance. And if not, it is what it is. So yeah, I think I stand on an island with that. So I know there's other admins that say, no, I do can water. So you guys speak up and say why.
I've canned water just because I needed to displace more in my canner. But I also have some odd jars that they're sealed, they have water in them, and I plunk those in. But I thought I'd give it a try because somebody said, hey, you got to can water. And as I was doing that, I thought, why am I wasting lids? Because it does wear them out. Eventually, they won't work again. So I have 3 quart size on my shelf, and that's where they sit. And that's it. That's where it'll stop.
I have a little something to add. I don't normally can water, and I know that a lot of people do it, but again, it's wasting jars. It's using lids, it's using rings. So a little trick that I found is I keep aluminum foil I have a drawer full of it, and Scott just kind of laughs, but I keep a drawer full of aluminum foil that is for my PC only. So like if I have so many jars in there, or even water baths, if I have so many jars and it's not quite full, I just stuff those little globs of aluminum foil in and
Oh,
then put the
Genius.
lid on and go with it. And then when it's done, I just take them out, lay them out, and they kind of dry, and then gobble them back up and use them again, put them back in that drawer and use
Took an
them
hour
again.
early, I guess.
That's
nice.
just what I do.
That's a good idea. That's
Mhm.
great.
Mhm.
Anybody else got an opinion on that? Okay.
I think it's more if
Uh,
you want to do it. If you don't, don't.
yeah. Like I can see having, 2 days worth of water stored up, but at that point, um, I just feel like there's got to be other options. We got to figure out another way. So keep a
I
level
feel
head and remember how to do things, because there's going to be times. I just think if you're going to be flooding, or if your house is taken out by a tornado, think about Cassie. I remember that, her home was hit by the tornado earlier this year. There was no warning even for them. So, you know, I don't know. I don't feel like it's the best use of time and energy. Okay, here's one for moi. Um, you know what? I'll come back to me. Can Actually, this one was one I was going to do. Doggone it. We had admins that were going to be here and they didn't make it today. So, we're kind of down to my questions. My Can you can meat, and do I need to pre-cook my meat? So here's my opinions on this. I am a very picky eater. Like, you can ask Katie, you can ask Amelia. My mom's on here. I can see her in there. Yeah, I'm really, really persnickety about what I eat. And so if it's not texture right, I will spit it out. And this is meat that has been packed, raw packed. I don't know if you can see it. Can you guys see it at all?
Yeah,
Mhm.
we can see it.
So you'll see there's like those little foamy things in there. That's the proteins, I guess, that collect when you raw pack meat. In other words, I didn't put anything in this jar except the meat itself and a little bit of hickory smoke flavoring, so that this comes out as smoked pulled pork when I'm ready to use it. But I always end up rinsing my raw pack meat because I don't like all that stuff. It just grosses me out. I don't like to eat it. It's so gross. So I then got a little bit, common sense minded here and said, well, you know what? We love our chicken to be fried. So we take it and we just lightly saute it in a little bit of butter and put it in the jar. We fill it as full as it'll get. And again, I'm doing like Cindy does, and I'm filling this thing as full as I can. I put that lid on and I crank it down with the ring, because that meat is going to shrink, even when you've pre-cooked it a little bit. But look, you guys, there's absolutely no foam in that jar, and you'll see salt and pepper in there, and there's a little bit of onion. And then I can take this and we can use it in a stir fry or in tacos. You just throw it in the pan and it's ready to go. The texture difference between this and this is that this is very much like just putting it in the saute in the pan. This makes such a difference to pre-cook your meat. This comes out like canned chicken or canned tuna. I can't even tell you how many times we do this with steak. We do it with chicken. You'll see this, we can sausages, breakfast sausages. I'll cook those up. We'll put them in a jar. There's a dozen fits in a jar, which feeds our family for breakfast. And, or they're easy for the guys when they go elk hunting. So that's kind of my stand on it. I like to have my meat pre-cooked if I can. And then my next one is dairy. I do can dairy.
Trish,
Yeah.
can I just ask a question related to that?
Yeah. Yeah.
My question is, you said you crank them down, so you tighten your jars more like a lug lid then on
No,
the
I
raw pan right
apologize.
to the lid?
Good question. No, but just imagine there's a little bit of meat that's like touching the top or the bottom of the lid on the inside of this.
Right?
I push I push the lid down with the ring so that the ring is, or the lid's being held on by the ring for sure. It's not
Okay.
just resting there.
Okay.
Because as it cooks in there, that meat sinks and it shrinks. And then I end up having a jar full of meat rather than 3/4 of a
Right.
jar full of meat, right? So
Okay.
no, you're right.
Thank
I
you.
don't crank it down tight. You're right, but I do push it down and put my ring on.
Okay.
And then canning dairy. Any more questions on that last one, by the way? Okay, so we're gonna move on to canning dairy real quick. We've got Alfredo sauce that I can. I know, right? I'm stealing from Cindy and my mom, who are, or not Cindy, Monica and my mom, who are in the group. And I did the honey cinnamon cheese spread. Delicious. That's cream cheese with honey in it. And I added a little bit of cinnamon to mine, and we use it on
I think
breakfast
they have us
bagels
all on mute anyway,
and
unless
waffles.
you ask the question.
You want
My
to mute her real
call
quick?
is not working.
Oh no. Okay. And then we do sour cream. So that looks
This will be done
really
in 10 minutes.
awful.
But you can start cooking. Yeah.
Yes, he can start cooking anytime.
What are we cooking?
Yeah, go for it.
Yummy. Are we all
We
invited?
know you guys cook together, Jen.
Oh, I guess they can hear us.
Love it. Oh, it's awesome.
Uh,
So
I haven't done sour cream yet.
okay, well, I've done sour cream and it looks disgusting. Like that looks curdled, right? It's not. You actually pull this out, you use your immersion blender in it, you just open it, you drain off that liquid because you see the liquid there. Drain the liquid off and then use your immersion blender. And you guys, within about 60 seconds, this is nice, fresh sour cream. It's wonderful. And what I would do is I put it in the fridge the night before we're going to use it, or the morning before we're going to use it, and then drain it, use the immersion blender, and it's nice, cold, fresh sour cream. So this, you do it just exactly the same way you do all of your dairies. You bring your pressure canner up to pressure and then shut it off, or you water bath it for 60 minutes.
I don't drain mine, Trish, and I blend it, and it comes out a little thinner because of the whey, but then I can pour it, and I love pouring it across my nachos.
Yeah, there you go. Or like on baked potatoes. Yeah.
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 Drizzle it.
Same
I
thing.
love drizzling it.
Nice
How
job.
full do you
Christy.
put it? How full do you put it in the jars for? Like 1/4 inch headspace? Does it
No,
swell
I
a
do
lot?
a full inch.
Yeah.
Inch? Okay.
Yeah,
I've
I
always
go a
gone
full
to like
inch.
the bottom ring.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do on my milk products. On all dairy, I go a full inch because I've had it bubble up through. And you guys know what it's like when the kettle of milk overflows and then it burns and that milk is just
Yeah.
terrible. Yeah, you don't want that.
Well, I
Ange
knew
has
the
a
cream cheese
question.
expanded. I wasn't sure about the sour cream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ange, what was your question, hun?
No, I just found the damn button.
That's awesome.
I saw Norma laugh at me. She knew exactly what I was doing. It's like I found it.
I love it. Okay, one more thing, and then we're gonna go do a round robin real quick.
Uh-oh.
The question is, can I put my jarred food? So I've been working all day. I come home and I put my food in the jars, and now I'm just freaking exhausted and I'm ready to go to bed. Can I put my food in the refrigerator and can I pull it back out and can it later? And the answer is yes, absolutely, you can. Absolutely. But here's the process. Don't forget that we've got to have, because this is glass, we've got to have everything in the jar the same temperature inside and out. So even if you're starting with cold canner, cold food, blah, 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 this is what I do when I pull it out of the fridge. I take my jars and I put them in the canner and about this deep with Waterbath, okay, right up to the hip or the 1 inch line. And I let them sit in room temperature water for about an hour. And then I turn them on and I let them slowly come up to a steam. And as I do that, I will swirl each one of my jars. Now, the reason for this is because this is a product, right? There's something in there, and you know how things get when they get cold, they like to compact together. And we don't have any guarantee that the things in the very center of that jar are going to be the same temperature as out here, right? So even when you start to pressure can or you water bath and things will come up to pressure or you'll get your boil, you're not guaranteed that the stuff in the very center of that jar is really still the same temperature as out here. One, that can cause some serious health problems if you eat something that's not good in the center. And two, just think about when you lift up your jar out of the canner and there's a cold spot in it, what's going to happen if that cold spot hits the outside of that jar?
Shatter.
Thermal shock.
Yeah, it's going to shatter, right? So that's dangerous. It's dangerous to eat it and it's dangerous to handle it. So I always make sure that my jars, when I put things in the fridge and I'm going to can them later, I always make sure that everything is heated up inside uniformly before I start my pressure and my time for water bath. So just make sure you get everything nice and warm on the inside all the way up. Anybody else have anything to add on that one? Okay, going around the room because we're almost done. We got 6 minutes left. What is the thing you can the most?
The thing I can the most, salsa.
Yeah. Salsa. Okay.
Leftovers.
Leftovers. Good job,
Love
Katie.
leftovers.
Yeah.
Tomatoes and
Nothing in
Fruit.
Depends on the
particular, just
season.
whatever I got.
Let's, yeah. Depends on
What do
the
you do?
season. In
Yeah.
the winter, I can more soups and
Yes.
meat type things, but in the fall, like when harvest time, I can vegetables. So it just depends. Or if I get bored, I'll try something totally new, experiment quite a bit, and throw some stuff away and then start over.
Yep. What about
Freezer
you, Amy?
out time.
What's that?
Freezer clean out time because you got a beef coming or pigs
Yeah.
that are going into butcher. You gotta clear out that freezer. It's been meat city here.
I
Yeah.
cleaned out.
Amy does. We do a lot of the chicken. We eat a lot of chicken. Lately we've done a lot of tomatoes. In the wintertime, it's soups and beans and I think the thing that I can probably the most and I like canning the most is beans. But I love beans. And so we use a lot of them. If I were to think of the number one thing that I can, it's probably beans. Do a lot of beans.
Mine's jams and jellies. I've probably got 400 different jars of jams and jellies, and I don't eat jam, but everybody else does. I'm the jam person, and I've got I make it with alcohol, so they're tasty to adults.
Nice. And then what is something you think that we should know that isn't talked a lot about? Does anybody have anything for that?
So I have a suggestion that we have a segment on one of our next Zooms about tips and tricks.
Okay.
And I'm going to show you right here. This is what a tool that I got off of Amazon. I'm just going to throw this out there. It's meat masher, and you put your meat in your jar and you mash it down, and so you have less shrinking. And they came in a 5-pack of different sizes. Game changer, guys. But things like this that we've learned over the years, like the little squirty thing that you used to put nail polish remover in.
That was good.
Yep.
Mhm.
Amy uses that.
Yeah. I think
Amy's. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
She's had 2 canners going this morning, and right behind us on the hood, on that metal hood, last year she showed us that she used a dry erase marker on the canner itself to tell us what's in it and what time. She's gone because she found that it kind of is harder to rub off of the canner once it's gotten hot. She's now gone to using the hood, that metal hood over the stove, and that works great. So she can tell exactly what's there. So yeah, I agree.
Right.
Tips and tricks next time. Let's work on that. Okay, Jen Kernahan, I see you're unmuted. Do you have anything you want to add or say?
No, nothing. I just enjoyed seeing everyone's faces and putting a name to the face and the voice to the face. It's awesome.
Yeah, same here. We love having you. Monica's bling. I know you're still here. Anything?
Yes. Talk about the salts. What salts should be used and when?
Oh, sure.
Canning
Salts.
salts.
Absolutely.
Because I'd be
Uh,
confused.
So the only thing you don't want to use in your canning, quite frankly, is something that's iodized. And the only reason you don't want to use that, and anybody can chime in and contradict me here, but the only reason you don't want to use the iodine is because it causes your product to be cloudy. So a lot of people get panicked and worried because their food has like a cloud in it, or in the bottom of the green beans it'll be cloudy. That's because they use regular salt. So you can use sea salt, you can use true salt, you can use non-iodized. There's so many
Himalayan
different
salt.
salts.
Yeah, the pink
Himalayan
Himalayan.
salts. Yeah, absolutely. Anything that is not iodized,
So you just
you're
use it
good to
all
go.
the same, including the canning salt?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
That's
I buy
what canning
the
salt
Himalayan.
is.
I buy the Himalayan rock salt, like big chunks for my pickling, for my salsas.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Great question, Monica. Thank you. Yeah, we missed that one.
Sometimes, though, to know what the salt is, you're going to want to taste your salts before you use them, because different salts are going to have different saltiness levels. So
True.
if you try to use, say, sea salt, the same amount that you'd use table salt for, you're going to find a product that you can't even eat. It's way too salty. So you
Yeah.
just want to be aware of how much salt is different from kind to kind.
Yeah.
That's true.
Ange was going to talk about spaghetti.
Yes.
You're muted.
Mute.
You're muted.
Get that.
There
See
you
that
go.
now. So, spaghetti, the lovely topic of spaghetti. So are
Yeah.
we talking spaghetti sauce, spaghetti noodles, spaghetti in your nose?
What do you do?
Are we talking?
What do you do, Ange?
Personally, I make spaghetti sauce.
Mhm.
I don't add the meat because I'm not a big ground beef eater. And so I like to just make my sauce.
Mhm.
And then when I'm making it, I brown burger because Scott is a carnivore. And I like to put pepperonis in mine instead of hamburger. So we can just switch. Like I'll put a little beef in it and then a little pepperoni. I personally don't put the meat in the spaghetti sauce. The noodles are a little iffy, and it's not because I feel they're unsafe. Because if you pack spaghetti noodles, you could do spaghetti noodles in with your sauce because we do lasagna.
Mm-hmm.
You can put the spaghetti. What I would recommend is to buy a thicker spaghetti, like a more solid noodle, and then put it in raw, but watch how much you put in because it will suck the sauce in and
Yeah.
any kind of liquid.
It swells up.
Yep, it does.
Yes. And as long as it's not packed tight like a big blot of something, I think that the heat will disperse properly. And I know they say it's unsafe because the spaghetti expands too much and blah 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 blah, but we can dense things all the time.
Mhm.
The only thing that I would be concerned with is if you like pre-cooked them and you put them in the jar, then they're just going to be mush.
Right.
Now, personally, I make spaghetti. I mean, I make chicken and noodles because I have this lovely little place that Trish does not like to talk about, but I like to frequent often, and it's an Amish grocery store, and they have those big thick. They have homemade noodles that are real thick and
Yeah.
beautiful. And so I made chicken and noodles soup last year, and some of it turned out beautifully, but I experimented. It's all about experimenting. I experimented. So one, I put way too many noodles in, so it's a hard blob. And I'll probably be dumping those. But the ones that I just put a little bit of those real thick noodles in, and then put all your extra broth and some chicken in it, they turned out beautifully. So, and I ate some after the big debacle the other day, because my stomach was not feeling well anyway. And I ate some, and I'm here to tell about it today. So, I think that it's fine. The infamous spaghetti.
Yeah.
I'll talk a little
canned
bit about
spaghetti and
noodles.
lasagna.
I can noodles in my soups. And I cook them ahead. They're maybe al dente. They're not really, really cooked, but I like to go to the Italian store here and I pick up pasta that needs like, I don't know, 11 or 15 minutes to cook. And then they hold their shape better. If I was to use egg noodles, it would be just mush, but I've done it with leftover and it was mush. But with these, like this soup was fully cooked. And then I made this soup or I canned it. And they're not going to be as firm as they were when I ate it the first time, but it's not going to be horrible. It's perfectly
Okay.
fine.
Yeah,
So,
we order the dry raviolis and the little tiny spaghettio noodles on Amazon because of where we live, we don't have access to anything. This is why I'm so mad that Ange has that Amish store. And by the way,
oh, that's why you're mad.
yes. And by the way, she and I had a can off that day. We both took to the kitchen and I went to can my chicken noodle soup and she canned her chicken noodle soup and she kicked my behind. So mine was an epic fail. But
It's
we do raviolis. We do the cheese raviolis and we do spaghettios. And my grandkids absolutely love them. They come home from school and heat up a jar quite often because they love those. So yeah, we can pasta as well.
so Trish, one thing that that we could probably talk about next time is that people think just because it has a dash of meat in it that it has to cook the whole 90 minutes.
No.
And that's just ludicrous because if it's less than 10%, you don't really have to take that into consideration.
Absolutely. You're
But
absolutely right. And I've heard this before too. Well, how would I know what 10% is? Well,
use
think
your
about it.
brain.
Yeah, well, this is 32 ounces, right? You don't want more than 3.2 ounces of beef or meat in your jar. Just weigh it out. It's really that simple. Just measure it out. 3.2 ounces is what you're going to put in a quart jar, and then you process for the highest vegetable time.
Right.
Correct.
It's that simple.
But you've got to also
and
take
that,
into account your 3 hour vegetables, for example, your onions and some of the other things. And because some days I'm done canning and I just want to process it. And I go, I know I got onions in here and I know I got meat in here. And I'm just going to bloody well do it for 3 hours.
Yep, absolutely.
Rather than sorry.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, well, we are about 7 minutes over time at this point, and the rest of the group has no idea. I think the admins have been on here for 2.5 hours this morning. We've had a wonderful time. I'm going to have to trim down our recording by a lot, but it's going to be fun. We'll get this uploaded, and yeah, I think we could do this again because this was a lot of fun, and now we have an idea of things we want to get addressed for next time.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks for doing it. It was
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a great experiment. It was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Absolutely. Glad I
Thank
was
you,
on
everybody,
today.
for joining.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for
Have a
coming.
good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
How to get out of here?